Okay, and welcome to this video for Math for Business and Finance students and Math application students. And again, we're doing Chapter 2 word problems, the odd-numbered problems in our study guide. And just as a quick FYI, because I haven't said it in a while, when you're going through these videos, you have the ability to stop, pause, rewind, and revisit what I'm saying. And if you still don't understand how something is arrived at, feel free to contact an instructor either by telephoning or clicking on the Contact Us link when you log into your PennFoster account. Okay? All right, so now let me see, we ended up on problem 2-41 last time, so we're going to pick up with 2-43. Okay, this problem says, Mark, Stephen, and Daniel enter into a Subway sandwich shop partnership. Now, immediately when I read that, and notice what I'm doing, I'm going to diagram what I'm thinking here, okay, based upon what I read. Mark, Stephen, and Daniel entered into a Subway sandwich shop partnership. So I can call this the Subway partnership, and when I can divide it into 3 because there's Mark, there's Stephen, and there's Daniel. Okay, the total of whatever they invest equals the 100% of the Subway partnership. Right? That's what ran through my mind. Okay, Mark owns 1/9 of the shop. So Mark owns 1/9 and Stephen owns 1/4. What part does Daniel own? So we don't know what part Daniel owns. Okay. Now, to be able to solve for this, we want to know how much Mark and Stephen together own, because then we could subtract, we could take that and subtract that and figure out what Daniel owns. Okay. Now remember, this Subway partnership, by drawing the circle, that represents 100% or its entirety, a whole number of 1. Okay. And so whatever this fraction is, we're going to take that away from the 1 as a whole in order to figure out what we need to figure out. So if Mark is 1/9 and Stephen is 1/4, right, we want to know how much that is in total. And of course we have different denominators, so now we have to find the least common denominator. We know 4 can't go into 9 evenly, so we go and say, okay, now we can do it one of 2 ways. We can go 9 times 4 is 36, all right, or we go 9 plus 9 is 18, and 4 can't go into 18, so we add 9 again, and that gives us 27, right? 4 can't go into 27, right? So we add 9 again, and then that ends up being 36. So we know 4 can go into 36, which is the same as what we did in the math. So, in a problem like this, I would not spend so much time doing it this way, because just knowing your multiplication, you know that 4 isn't going to go into 18 or 27. 4 goes into 28, right? So you know it's going to be 36. So our least common denominator is going to end up being 36. Now, if you remember from earlier in the drill problems, it had talked about inspection or dividing by the prime numbers, and there were 2 additional methods that you could use. And again, you could go back and you could revisit them and do it that way if you want. But I find that intuitively I use this hybrid method. When the numbers are small like this, I just multiply them together, and I kind of like just mentally quickly check, 4, 8, 16, 20, 24, 28, 36. I know it can't go into 27. So again, and that just happens quick just from doing it again and again and again for myself. So anyway, so we put our 36 in the denominators. 9 can go into 36 4 times. 4 times 1 is 4. 4 can go into 36 9 times. 9 times 1 is 9. And then we add those together and we end up with 13/36. Okay, and we can't, we can reduce that. We can't reduce that any further because 13 can't go into 36. Okay, so now we know that this 13/36 is the combination of Mark and Stephen. Okay, and if this circle represents the whole and it represents 1 as a whole number, and remember, we're dealing with fractions. Fractions are a part of a whole. And we figured out that the part of this whole is 13/36. So we want to know what the other part of the whole is. So we have to take the 1 and then subtract the 13/36 in order to find out what Daniel's portion is. Now again, I had said in previous videos that any number over itself is equal to 1. Well, if I need a denominator of 36, 36 over 36 is equal to 1. Okay, so I can go and say 36 over 36 because that represents the 1. Now I can subtract the 13/36. Okay, my obviously I keep my denominator at 36, and if I subtract 13 from 36, I end up with 23. Okay. So Daniel's portion of the Subway partnership is 23/36. Okay. I hope you understood that. Go back and rewatch it. There's some important concepts here. Diagramming it out, realizing that when you do create this here whole, that represents 1 or 100%. I mean, if they had said that, they entered into a partnership that had 3 Subways, well, when I make that whole, that could have represented 3 as the whole. Okay, but the point being is that when I look at a whole, it's the entire amount, and then I look at the portions of, and that's the fractions. Okay, and diagramming it out so that you understand that is important. A lot of students will just start reading the numbers and be lost because they don't understand the relationship here. They don't understand that, oh, what we're talking about here is we're talking about taking this 1/9 and adding it to the 1/4 in order to be able to figure out what's left over. Right? So that's the takeaway for this problem. All right, moving on to the next one. Okay, InternetWorldStats.com shows 1/2 of North America's population is on Facebook. If there are 312,934,968 people in the United States, how many are on Facebook? So again, if I want to diagram this out, it's saying the population of North America, of the United States, is 312,934,968. That's represented everything in the circle. And they're saying that half are on Facebook and half are not on Facebook. Okay. The question is asking how many are on Facebook. So it's as simple, since they're telling me that half of the population is on Facebook, and that means half is not, I still take the 312,934,968 times 1/2, and that will give me the 312,934,968 over 2. Why? Because a whole number, when you turn it into a fraction, you put it over 1, and that makes it a fraction, because 1 divided into that number is that number. So now when I multiply across, I get the 312 million times 1 gives me the 312 million in the numerator, and then 1 times 2 in the denominator gives me 2. So now I divide the 2 into that number, and that gives me 2 into 3 goes 1 time, 1 left over, so that's 11. 2 into 11 is 5. That's 10, so that gives me 1 left over. 2 into 12 goes 6 times. 2 into 9 goes 4 times with 1 left over. 2 into 13 goes 6 times with 1 left over. 2 into 14 goes 7 times. 2 into 9 goes 4, 1 left over. 2 into 16 goes 8 times, and 2 into 8 goes 4 times. And that's my answer. Half of the 312, 934, 968. Now notice I did that in my head as I was writing it on the screen here. By doing the problems, you should get accustomed to doing that. You shouldn't be pulling out a calculator and punching on a calculator and relying upon the calculator. I find that a lot of people who rely upon the calculator and don't think, and that's what math is about, is learning how to think and developing that skill set. When they just punch it into the calculator and they're just taking it for granted that the calculator knows, well, if you entered it in wrong and you're going to get a wrong answer, and if you take it for face value just because you punched it in, you're going to get the problem wrong. Okay, so I've come to rely upon me in order to be able to do the math, because I've just done it so many times. And even when I make a mistake, I have a tendency to feel something hit me in the back of my head saying, "Hey, stupid, you made a mistake," So get to the point where you're either doing this math by hand or doing it in your head. Don't rely upon the calculator, especially for something like this. And to be honest with you, I could have done it just as quickly as the calculator, and I'd be even more sure of myself in my answer than I'd be sure of what's in what I entered into the calculator. Okay, so take that for what it is, and I'll see you in the next video.